So today I'm going to show you how to shoot a time lapse with the drone. I've got the Phantom 4 here, and everything I'm using is linked in the description below. So if you want to check that out, it's down there. I'm just going to bring it up. Okay, we are rolling now. So now I'm just going to find the spot that I want. For this particular shot, it's going to be a sunset, and we're definitely going to have some sun flare, as you can see already. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pick a shutter speed that kind of makes sense for the whole thing. I'm going to start a little overexposed so that when it, as the sun goes down, we're going to lose exposure. So I don't want to mess around with the exposure at all once I start. I'm just going to go a little higher. I'm at about 90 meters right now. Okay, so I'm just gonna position exactly what I want. It seems like I'm a little skewed, but that's okay. That's perfectly fine, because we can correct that in post very easily. I'm actually thinking about doing it not facing the sun directly. So I think I might actually just use that as my position right there. And we're already rolling, so now the trick is to just let it sit there. And we've got 14 satellites linked up, so really it's not going anywhere. The wind is pretty chill. It does a pretty good job of just sitting in that spot right there. Today's a pretty good day for this, just because the clouds are, we're going to be able to see the movement with the time lapse with that, and as well the sun moving. Now that we're not kind of facing directly at the sun, we won't get that lens flare look. If you were looking directly at the sun with the lens, you would see that change as well. But the bad thing that happens actually is that there's going to be a ton of stabilization in post. So that when you have a lens flare, it may not look like it's moving, but because the drone is moving so much and you're stabilizing, the lens flare is going to do like a weird movement kind of thing. So it's usually not the best to have that going. So everything looks good as far as satellites and connection, and we're up to 2.5 minutes of recording. I'm shooting 4K, 24 frames per second. I've got the guide frame in the middle. That's the only guide frame that I like to have open. I have the white balance set to sunny. As far as color, I'm on D Cinelike. My ISO is 100, my shutter speed is 1/1000, and I've got f2.8 because that's fixed. So we're at 86% battery right now at 3 minutes of record time, and we're literally just going to let it roll as long as it can. I have the warning set to 30%, so it's gonna start beeping at that point, but I could literally wait until the 10% mark to just like bring it down. So we're just gonna wait until then. We should probably, hopefully get a 20-minute time lapse. I'm hoping for that. That would be probably good. I'm guessing we started a little earlier than we probably should have to get like the sun going down, but the sun is definitely going to start to touch the buildings at that point. We have plenty of time. We still have 21 minutes of airtime. So at this point, it's just a waiting game, so we're just going to let it sit. Now, ironically, it's good that there isn't much wind because the drone isn't being forced to use a lot of power to offset it or like be blown around a little bit. But the bad side of that is that the clouds don't move as much, so there's less of a dynamic movement in the time lapse itself. So it's a give or take, you know. Okay, status update. It is 44% battery on the drone. We've been up for 14 minutes. We have 9.5 minutes left of battery. The sun is just about to hit the horizon line. I want more movement, so. It's also getting a lot darker. Yeah. Maybe auto exposure would be better for this. I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe I should try another one. Yeah. As soon as this battery runs out, I'm gonna bring it down, put a new battery, bring it back up, and then leave auto exposure on and see how that goes. That's a good idea, yeah. Okay, so we're getting the 30% battery warning right now. I could turn that off. Should probably just turn it off. It's kind of annoying. Okay, I set it to 15%, so now we'll have like another minute or two without that annoying noise. So the sun is actually going behind these clouds right now, so that's good. That's like a big change that's happening. So we've got 27% left of the battery on the drone. 4 minutes total of battery. I'm gonna bring it down once it hits 15%. That's pretty safe. It'll take me like 10 seconds to bring it down. And also the sunset looks nice when the sun is like just like going below the horizon line. So I'm excited about the next time lapse we're gonna do after this with the auto exposure on. But it's really easy. I'll show you what it's like in post, but shooting it is quite easy. You just gotta find a good spot and a good time, and you like have good weather and clouds and you know, all that good stuff. Planning, pre-production. Okay, so we're at 20 minutes. I feel good. You know, we're at 18%. I'm gonna bring it down. So we're just gonna stop the recording right now. Okay, and I'm just gonna bring it down. It's pretty much right above me at like 80 meters. So super easy to bring it back. It's been flying for a while, so you know, the motors get hot, the batteries get hot. You don't wanna stress it out. Okay, easy. All right, now I'm gonna switch out the battery. I'm gonna put it right back up. Same thing, we're just gonna put the auto exposure on now, like I mentioned. And it might actually look better in low light because the shutter speed is gonna be way low. Instead of 1/1000th, it's gonna be like 1/25, which will give you more motion blur for the time lapse. But I'm gonna try to put it, you know, at that same spot, just to be able to compare the time lapses, I guess. That's my spot right there. We're just gonna let it sit. Once again, we are rolling, we're at 95%. It's on auto exposure. I set it to negative 0.7 EV. So that'll underexpose it by 0.7 stops? I think, right? It'll underexpose it a little bit. So we're just gonna let that sit again. Getting a little bit of color on those clouds. I like that. Now we got the orange-blue gradient going on. This would be a good one. Might even do a third time lapse. No, I don't have card space. Fuck, yeah. I should buy another card. Especially now that I'll be doing these time lapses more, because they're cool. Thought about kicking that ball, but I should probably stick with the controller to the drone. Probably a good idea. Probably a good idea. So we're at 80% right now. We've got 20 minutes left of battery. We are 4.5 minutes worth of time lapse. So we're at 1/200th. So we're gonna get more and more motion blur as the sun goes down. We still have plenty of exposure, you know. Once it gets to like 1/25th, that's when it starts rocking the ISO, but right now we're clean. We are very clean. So you might be thinking, Craig, shouldn't you be like manning the drone? The Phantom 4 just fucking owns face. And the wind, there's like, oh no, the SD card is full. Okay, well, that means we can take it down now. So now I'm going to show you how we kind of process the video file and make the actual time lapse.
Alright, so we're going to make a new sequence, 4K. It's going to sense the first clips that go in. So this first time lapse was actually shot over these 2 clips because it couldn't fit it all in 1 clip. So what we have here is a 18 minute long time lapse in 2 sections. So we're just going to find kind of where it starts, which I would say is right here. Took us a little bit of time to find the exact spot that we wanted, and then the end works. So what we're going to do is we're going to make these 2 clips one with a compound clip option. So now it's treating it like it's 1 clip. What we're going to do is we're going to scale it up so that it fits the 4K timeline frame that we have here. So that looks good. Actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to export it as is and let it do the stabilization and whatnot, and then we're going to make it fit, a 19 by 6 or 16 by 9 aspect ratio. All right, so as you can see, the time lapse kind of bounces around a little bit. We're going to bring this down to 8 seconds first and foremost. And we're going to apply some stabilization, but it's much easier to do that once it's an exported clip instead of that long smushed clip. So we're going to make a master file. We're going to try to make it ProRes, export it as is, try to retain as much detail. So we're going to call this time-lapse raw 01. So we're just going to let that export. Okay, so that file's done exporting, so we're going to bring it in time-lapse raw 01. Okay, cool. I believe this is it right here. We're just going to take this, we're just going to put it into our timeline and get rid of the old clip. Shift Z so we can see what we're working with. Okay, so now we have this clip. It's 8 seconds long, but it just bounces around, shakes a bit. We're going to try to fix that with stabilization. So we're just going to click that on, let it analyze for dominant motion. Okay, so it did its stabilization, and it did quite a bit of good job. You can kind of see the building bouncing a little bit right here, which is kind of strange, but it definitely works for the shot as is. Okay, so what you're really looking for in the end is the tripod mode. And Final Cut does its own analyzing of the clip to see if you are allowed this option, but sometimes you are, sometimes you aren't. It really depends on the wind and how much the drone actually moved when it was in the air. You can apply a little bit more smoothing if you want, but in the end you're going to want the inertia cam rather than the smooth cam. And you don't want it to jump out. You want it to be smooth, but like that building bouncing. You don't want something bad like that. So I would say this is probably the best that we're going to get. I could apply another stabilization once I bring it into whatever I'm bringing it into, but I'm going to finalize this by adding color finale to the clip. What I usually do is I shoot this way so that I can really quickly bring in one of these log cubes, and then that's pretty much what I like to do to these clips. It's very high contrast, high saturation, so I can see the difference between the blues and the oranges there, and that's really it. Alright, so now we're going to try the second time lapse, the one with automatic exposure on. So once again, it was shot over the length of 2 clips, and we were cut off a little bit at the end, but we should still have enough to try the time lapse. And it seems we started rolling, right at the correct time. So we're just gonna make this one clip, and we're about a 15-minute long clip here. So step 1, we are going to Command R. We're going to bring this down to 8 seconds. Okay. And now we're going to export this as a ProRes file. Okay, and we're gonna bring that clip back in. Second time lapse. And it should be this one right here. Bring that back into our project, get rid of the old clip. Now that we have that new 8-second clip, we're gonna select that, do some stabilization, and let it sense that. Okay, let's see how well that stabilization did. And we do have a tripod mode. Okay, so that'll be even better. It's pretty great. So as you can see, you know, it's not, you can see with the black bars on the top and bottom how much it is actually moving. So first we're going to scale it up so that we don't have any black bars. We're actually going to select the tripod mode. We're just going to let that process for a minute. And now with the tripod mode here, it looks like we're not even moving at all. And that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. So the wind for this one worked way better than the first one. So this is a really good product. This is what we want. And now that we look at it in this mode, you can kind of see some bouncing with the buildings on the left here, but it's really hard to tell when you're watching it, and especially if you put, you know, crop marks or do some kind of push in or out. So I think this worked pretty well. So we're gonna bring color finale into this clip here and then do the color correction real quick. I accidentally brought in 2, so we're just gonna get rid of that 1. Okay, so just like before, I'm going to apply that 1 LUT, and it should be pretty much all we need. So let's see what that final product looked like. So with the auto exposure, there's way less of movement, you know. I would expect it to get way darker, so I think I kind of like it when you have the manual exposure and you let the clip get darker as it goes, but the movement for this clip was so much better. So I kind of wish we could have mixed the movement with this one so that we could have that tripod mode for the stabilization, but I kind of wish we did manual exposure instead of auto for this one. So that kind of settles it. I think the best settings are manual exposure, let it become darker as it goes, and then really hope for some subtle wind so that you can apply the stabilization with the tripod mode, because this looks way better than having the clip kind of bounce around.